It's Johnberry555 and welcome to my second review for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So, unlike last week, I'm actually on camera today, and I'm actually putting this video out the day after the episode airs instead of the day before the next episode airs, so improving. But anyhow, so this is the second episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. So right off the bat, I would like to say, I think what I'm hoping for the series in terms of storytelling is coming to fruition, where each episode's main story will be an episodic story that doesn't necessarily relate back to previous episodes, but the characters acknowledge previous episode events. They reflect on how it's impacted them, and that's a sense I very much got from the story, that it's going to be the characters' stories that are going to be arching across episodes, and those stories are going to be served by each episode's own story. So essentially, Captain Pike always will have some through line for every episode, I'm going to assume. And last episode, it was the new the Chief of Security, / Technical Officer. I forget her rank, but her last name is Noonien Singh, like as in Khan Noonien Singh. So it's going to be interesting if they're going to build on that anyway, but she wasn't the character that got the story focused on this episode. It was actually Uhura, Cadet Uhura in this case. So it seems like generally Pike is going to be getting always some sort of story, something in an episode. It seems like Spock is also going to be getting a little bit as well. And then in each episode, a third member of the cast is going to get some featuring, which I think is a good way of doing it. Show the character development, help us relate to these characters and explore these classic characters. Especially with Uhura, because let's be honest, she didn't get much characterization in the original series. She was a great character, but we didn't get much exploration for which we got in this episode. Her doubts, in other words, is off with the right choice for her. Decisions as a cadet, questions she's probably wondering, which very good to explore this stuff. Also, I really did appreciate another thing is what they seem to be going to be doing with Samuel Cook, with Lieutenant Cook. I'm wondering if it happens in episode 3, we got a running gag on our hands. Well, actually maybe episode 3 and 4, but away a mission. So you had Spock, Khan, Noonien Singh. I keep on saying Khan, but that's not in her name. And so Spock, Noonien Singh, Uhura, and Lieutenant Samuel Cook are on their away mission on a Comet. Hence the name of the episode, Children of the Comet. I hope I said that already. If not, I just did. But anyhow, what I find interesting is he got knocked out. Electrical discharge right into him when they're trying to figure out the structure on the Comet. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a running gag that he's going to keep on getting injured in some way. Granted, us, the audience, if we paid attention to the original series, we know that's when Samuel Cook dies in episode, I think, Operation Annihilate. But is this going to be a running gag where his life is going to be threatened in every episode, or nearly every episode? Is it going to be the equivalent of the Red Shirt gag, where the death of Red Shirts was used to show this is a serious situation? Or in Next Generation, when Worf got his ass handed to him to show, again, serious situation? Is it going to be like that, just with this character who everyone, if they pay attention, knows is going to die, but not everyone knows that? I do wonder if that's a running gag in development. I can't wait to find out. Just looking at myself with my mustache and facial hair, I should have worn a blue shirt instead of a red shirt. I was saying, who was the main character in this episode? The character who got the most development, so I'll wear red. But maybe I should wear blue, because it's actually kind of crazy. But anyhow, another thing I would like to talk about in this episode before I get more into the plot elements and the story itself is the title sequence. I didn't talk about the title sequence in last week's review, but came out only 2 days ago. But I do want to say, I'm liking this title sequence. It's calling back to the original series and Next Generation, but still being its own thing. It's actually the first series since Next Generation to open with the the narration. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise, etc. In fact, I did a video talking about that line, those lines. Go check that out if you are interested. But anyhow, I really do like how they're calling back to these older series, but still doing it in a new and fresh way. I really do appreciate that. Showing some development and all that. Also, another thing I really did like in the episode was really showing them being explorers. That's something that is at the core of Star Trek: exploration. The plot that gets the episode going is they're on a survey mission, surveying a comet, and they're like, "It's going to strike a world." So what do? Well, they say, "Let's get some ion thrusters on there so we can push it out of the way of the planet." Simple as that. Well, not so simple. The asteroid, or the comet, has shielding, and then an alien species comes up claiming they're the shepherds of the comet, and they won't let anyone interfere with it. The comet must do what it's going to do. And actually, some people I know have made comparisons to an episode of Star Trek Enterprise, where the Enterprise is going to destroy one of the spheres in the Galactic Expanse, and religious fanatics are like, you can't do that. Some people draw some comparisons to that, and I very much see where they're coming from. Also, however, draw a comparison to an episode of the original series, where they are noticing a comet is or an asteroid in that case, was on its way to impact the planet, and they were like, let's divert it. But it ends up there's a device on that planet that helps divert it. Parts of the episode are good, parts of it aren't good, because of this depiction of Native Americans. Seriously, it's not a terrible episode in terms of story, it's just more, they could have done this just by introducing an alien species, without worrying about, treading on some of the, what's the word I'm looking for, unfortunate stereotypes, and probably the worst one being, all natives are the same when they're not. That's probably the most common one. And also removing agency by saying, there was some alien interference. Yeah, but it's not the worst example of that in Star Trek, so there is that. But one thing to make a note of in this episode is it is a very different story in terms of, it's not, the planet itself is not a big part of it, except for that's in half the planet. It's basically a story about Uhura basically gaining confidence in her choice to join Starfleet. We're showing that she is a linguist. She knows linguistics, and the key to solving basically the puzzle and to gain some control of the comet, well, guess what? It's as simple as music. I mean, language is many things, including music. Musical language is a thing. I'm surprised Spock didn't pick up on that, because Vulcan script in Star Trek looks very much like very flowy and musical, but that's the script, not necessarily the spoken language. But I feel like that was done before in another episode of some Star Trek show where an alien society's language was very music-based. I could be wrong. Could be a later set in the timeline one, so there's always that. But yeah, I really did enjoy the exploration of Uhura in this episode, and actually the alien species are quite interesting because they're like, we were given this task long ago to protect this comet and others potentially like it, and they had a name for it, and it's designated this as a special one because of the religious significance for them, and of course they call themselves shepherds, and I'm like, I hope they had somehow unlocked a piece of the puzzle for them that Pike could have given to them that showed they are more than just watching it and protecting it, but guiding it. And when you look at because Pike was first confused why it was translating as shepherd, and confirmed that it was not her, the communications officer who's not her, don't know her name, said that's how it was translated. And shepherd well, they are designed. Their job is to protect sheep, especially if you go look in biblical texts. They're always associated with sheep and protecting sheep, guiding sheep. Make sure they don't get lost. So in some ways, I feel like it would have been good if they kind of hinted that these shepherds, in other words, they had forgot because they had mentioned that it was so long ago they forgot who charged them with protecting this comet. That makes me wonder if they also forgot maybe part of their mandate is to help shepherd the comet, to help make sure it accomplishes its tasks correctly. I don't know. And of course, with Pike, they're building off his story of knowing his future, how he's going to die, who he's going to save not his death per se, but the death of the life as he knows it, in that tragic accident that we know is coming for him. And then the comet gives them some information before they did it that literally showed the comet was somehow knew what was going to happen before it was going to happen, which connects nicely back to Pike's story. But speaking of Pike's story, one thing I do find very fascinating is they're dealing with something that a lot of prequels struggle with. Us, the audience, knows the fate of many of the characters. We know what's going to happen to Spock, Uhura, what's going to happen to Samuel Cook, Nurse Chapel, and also Pike as well. Some of the new characters we don't know, but all those characters, we know what's going to happen. Like the Star Wars prequels, for example. We knew generally Anakin was going to become Vader. We knew that. We knew the major plot beats. We knew that Palpatine was going to become the Chancellor, or not the Chancellor, but the Emperor. We knew that stuff. As the audience. But not the characters. But what Strange New Worlds is doing is like, what if when the characters also knew what was going to happen? That's what they're exploring with this show, and I'm fascinated with it. It's a different way of telling the story. It's much more engaging, and I think it'll help overcome the big flaw of sequels, knowing what's going to happen. And there's like, well, we know what's going to happen, but wait for the characters also know, and he's struggling with it, struggling to incorporate that into his life, worrying doesn't it affect his decisions, which we saw in the previous episode, and they're building upon that in this one. He's becoming more comfortable with knowing his fate, but he's also, starting now to struggle with, like, he knows his fate, worried about making the wrong decision, but now it's building upon all that, his struggles with it. Is he making the right decision? And of course, number one, makes him imagine, like, well, you know it, you could potentially circumvent it, make it better for everyone. Again, Star Trek hasn't done too much with predestination paradoxes, but they imply that they do exist. So I'm thinking they're going to be talking a little about that with time travel. In fact, I kind of wonder if there should be a time travel episode with this too, that gets Pike and maybe some of the other characters to really confront knowing what's going to happen. I think that would be a great way of exploring the characters in the universe. And that's, I think, what I'm really excited about for Strange New Worlds, what I'm liking what I'm seeing from it. It's going to be a very character-focused story. The events are just serving to tell the stories of the characters, which I think is good, because like we saw in Discovery, it's kind of like power creep in comics. Like, well, we already saved the Earth, what can we do now? Let's save the solar system. Well, we did that. Now we have to save the galaxy. Oh, now we have to save the universe. Now we have to save the multiverse. Oh, like, keep on building those stakes, and eventually they'll be like, what can you do now? You can only do save the world so many times as a trope in a story, and for it to still be impactful, because they're like, the heroes, they've saved the world 50 times already, they can do it again. But by focusing on the characters rather than the plot, we don't need those big world-ending stories to develop the characters. We need small stuff. And actually, Star Trek can do the local save the world stories, save the planet stories. That stuff is fairly easy, even the solar system. And because on the scale Star Trek is set, it works. But so that's why I think so many times, especially in Discovery, they're having to resort to save the galaxy or save the universe type stories. And I think Picard might be going that way too, I'm not quite sure. it doesn't really work out too well because the stakes keep on elevating, but they start becoming less and less meaningless. That's why I think the end, the final episode of Next Generation is so good, because sure, it's a save the universe story, but it's all about Picard. It's really about Picard, like, it's about him. It's not about the universe, it's about him and how this event is impacting him, not how he's impacting the event. Kind of, but it's more about him as a character, him learning to think beyond, the 4 dimensions humans can generally understand. So up and down, left and right, forward and backwards, 3 dimensions, and then time linearly. So he had to start saying about time non-linearly. So that is just something kind of to sort out there. And DS9, again, it's a very character-centric story with Sisko completing his character development, his character story. And Voyager had a built-in one of them getting home, so they could save the universe, but they're not home yet in the end of season finale. So when they got home, it was a culmination of the story. It was a built-in one. Enterprise, I think the intention was the beginning of the Federation, which is where they ended, but they missed a lot of that in between. They did a Save the Earth story, but they also did focus a little bit on the characters, maybe a little bit more, but Enterprise is still probably one of my favorite Star Trek series, so who am I to touch on if it's the best, because I enjoy it. So I say it's the best. Well, actually, I probably like DS9 a bit more, but Enterprise is up there. But by building upon characters, I think you can avoid essentially power creep and keep like season 1 stakes low, so that way season 2 doesn't have to be so, or they can do high season 1 and low season 2 stakes at the end. It doesn't really matter, because it's the characters we care about, how these events are affecting them, not how they are affecting the event. It's a interesting distinction, but I think it's an important one. And Star Trek Strange New Worlds seems to be going in that direction, which I am entirely happy about. I think it's a good way of storytelling, especially in our more binge storytelling society where we just, you just dream things from beginning to end. I think this is a good way of making sure that you don't always have to do a save the world trope for your story. You can just do a emotional character story, and that's what I'm liking about this. But that is where I'm going to end this video. I hope you did enjoy it. So thank you for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to like, upvote, and share the video across all the different platforms. Also be sure to subscribe and follow all the different platforms as well. Patreon if you'd like to support me, YouTube, Utron, all that stuff. All the links are down below. All the YouTube stuff. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. Live